but I never have had any experience per se. And
So
yeah,
you have a very strong education, right? So you're somebody that loves to acquire, right? Which
yeah,
is everybody, right? We need to quote unquote and acquire talents and knowledge so that we can, generate a career and support ourselves and all of that.
yeah,
Non-duality is totally counterintuitive to that. This is where a mind that loves to acquire has the
yeah,
hardest time trying to understand, because this is about relinquishing your attachments to everything that you've so-called acquired, but realizing that everything you required won't be lost in the relinquishing. You're not going to lose any of your education, so to speak. You're not going to lose any of that talent
yeah,
whatsoever, but it's learning to trust that as you let go of of these big aspects in your life, that something is going to be there to catch you.
mm-hmm.
And that's where the um, that's, I don't want to say fear, that's too strong. It can be fear, but there's nervousness because you think that you've done this life, you have done all of your education, this is your education, and you want to take ownership of it. And that's how we've been taught. That's how it works in the Western Hemisphere. Um, so it's understanding what it is we let go of and
Yeah,
trusting that everything that we want to remain will still be there. And and so it's all about understanding that at the core of everything, I like to say it's like a V. Like there's this funnel of the world, and
mm-hmm.
it all funnels back into this I. If you analyze your thoughts and and everything that you say, it's all relates back to this I. Who is this I?
Right,
And so it we turn away from the world at first. We don't deny anything that's happening in your life or in the world. We're just not interested in it. We're interested in this I that everything comes back and funnels into.
mm-hmm.
Okay, so this I is at the source. So we ask the question, who is this I?
Yes,
Okay. And and what is this I? Better stated, what isn't this I? Okay?
mm,
Because the I, which is yourself,
yeah,
is infinite. You can't know it. It won't let you know it conceptually or intellectually. And that's how we've been taught to know things,
correct, yeah,
right? But you can't know yourself intellectually or conceptually. You can only be yourself as yourself. So utilizing the Western mindset, we can only analyze what we're not, and what's left over is who we are. It's as if consciousness has fallen asleep to itself,
Yes.
And it's waking up to itself by knowing what it is not. And that which is remains is who you are. So the understanding, the knowledge collection here is actually understanding what we aren't. And we consider that false knowledge, and any false knowledge we disregard as not being who we are. See how counterintuitive that is to us that
So you
have
mean to
higher
say,
educations. I mean, it's
yes. Yeah, absolutely. So you mean to say, but in the inquiry, probably I didn't understand the process of self inquiry, where you ask who you are, who am I, or who you are, and from what you say, I understand that all that which arises is not me.
yes. It's actually extremely cut and dry. There's yourself, and then there's everything other than yourself. And you could actually put a label on that that's the ego. An ego only knows other than self.
Right.
Okay? So you can really simplify this, and ego is anything that is known, anything that changes, anything that fluctuates is ego. It's false knowledge that is relinquished during the knowledge collection phase, say prior to you going within in self-inquiry where the true work happens. But this is all understanding what false knowledge is so that when it comes into your awareness, you'll know, oh, that's false knowledge. I need to relinquish that because that is not who I am.
And still carry on with whatever that I do as well, or
Yes.
okay.
So in self-inquiry, are you able to go within and you're comfortable prior to
Okay.
mind and body and self-inquiry?
Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, you've
And
got the hardest part over.
I mean, in meditation, I don't know. I feel like maybe half an hour or so if I meditate every day. I try, or whenever I have time, if I travel. Basically, I feel like I may probably slept for some time and woke up. Like I'm still sitting, but I just went off and turned on,
Yeah.
something like that. But I didn't, I didn't quite, yeah. I don't know if that is what we are talking about, or
Well, okay, so self-inquiry is is not meditation.
yes,
Okay, so meditation is focusing on your breath or chanting or a mantra or mind, like mindfulness. And
yes,
those are all actions that are other than yourself, right? So, because I can know my breath, I know my mind, I know chanting. So, those are actually pulling you away from yourself. So, self inquiry is when you tap back prior to that, to prior to mind and body, and you rest in being. And there can be a division in this too as you start to inquire prior to mind and body. Your mind can go two different ways. It can go into like a sleep phase in
yes,
which mind activity or mind waves are only um, they're only quieted until you come back out, and then all those mind waves rise again.
yes,
Or and that's more of the sleeping, like what you were saying. this in this is like a state between sleeping and waking. You are conscious, you're aware, and there's no thoughts happening. And if thoughts arise, we have mechanisms for that too. We can ask ourselves further questions, which I could go over here soon. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so if you're resting into self during self inquiry and you find yourself going to sleep, it means that you've taken the wrong path. You need to um, you need to stay you need to stay conscious of awareness
Mm-hmm.
and 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 turn your attention back into awareness. And if you find yourself dozing off, that's okay. That happens to me from time to time too. It's not that
Mm-hmm.
big of a deal, but you just catch yourself and go, "Oh, whoa."
Yeah. I mean, I still I do the same. Like sometimes I catch myself, and I know that
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is something that I mean I'm basically going to sleep somewhere in by sitting up straight itself. Yeah, probably I just
Mm-hmm.
go into a quick off and on. So yeah, I do catch myself sometimes, but yeah, that's something that I have experienced, and I certainly have. I think I don't know an intuitive way to realize that whatever arises just arises and I just keep going with it. But how long do I go with it, or I just keep
Mm-hmm.
going with it? Because so the question is, my work requires a lot of application. Mind should be there active, and we do experiments. We do a lot of research activities every day, and my mind is preoccupied with all that whole day. And if I go for meditation, this is all quiet, but certainly more ideas, say for example, pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And it is nothing personal, so it is nothing that kind of want to gain out of something. It's just that it just keeps coming
Yeah.
back. So there would be more and more and more of ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them are really, which is like something which even I don't know where it came from, kind of thing
Right.
happened, because I have no experience in any of this field. But suddenly it's like it keeps coming in. So
Yeah.
that's where I get more confused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to come up, especially in the early stage. There's more in the early stages, right? Of your inquiry. I don't know how long you've been doing this, but um, we don't you don't need to see them as pesky. You could see them as reminders to turn
Yeah.
within.
Okay.
Okay. And what we do is anytime a thought rises, I like to ask myself the question, who is this I that thinks? I would write that down. That's a big one because all of these thoughts come up, and what you're doing, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You're funneling back into this I. Who is this I at the center of everything? And it's ego. Ego is at the center of everything. But this
And is that,
I, it this
yeah.
I, this I or ego, it will obey itself, which is the strange thing, which is kind of what makes this all happen, is because the ego, it wants to go home to itself, and its source is self. So it simultaneously at first wants to rise up and give you the dissatisfaction we all seem to experience from ego, but simultaneously it wants to go home and rest in the love of itself because it rises out of self. So in self inquiry, when we say, "Who is this I that thinks?" it will go, "Oh, I'm this I that thinks." And it'll turn around and it'll go back to its source. And you just turn your attention back into the source. And you keep doing this. Anytime another thought comes around, you say, "Who is this I that thinks?" And it will keep doing this, and you'll see over time that thoughts will calm down, and they will get less and less and less. You know, I haven't experienced them going completely away in self-inquiry. They still arise within me, but that's okay. That's how it works. But what happens is that over time, if you sit long enough, you will subside them to zero, at least during
Mhm.
that session, and you will rest in being. There will just be amness happening. I am will just be happening. And you'll start to encounter that more and more.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, the other and you can add any word you want to thinker. You know, who is this I that's frustrated? It will turn around. Who is this I that's restless? Who is this I that's bored? So, whatever you're experiencing,
Yeah.
use that against it because it's only it. It's using itself against itself to return home to itself.
Yes. Beautifully said. Yeah.
It you're there. I mean, you're from what I'm hearing, it's just abiding there, abiding in self-inquiry in your being as much as you can now, and being okay with what arises. And they're just
Yeah.
loving reminders to turn within.
Yeah. I think over a period of last 6 months or so, life has been very quiet. Like I stay alone in an apartment, but neither does life affect me, nor does work, and there is not much of thing happening around, or I don't have to be anxious about pretty much anything in life. Right now, there is an evenness, I would say. Some days are sort of busy, but it's just something I just can handle it pretty easily. Some days I have the drive to basically finish off some certain things for the project and everything, but that's still fine. But yeah, and I also feel like even if I am in a very big crowd, there is not much of interaction, or I'm not anyway dis- there is no discomfort in not speaking to somebody or not socializing, or there is no awkwardness sitting alone being quiet and everything. So I guess yeah, but the only thing that I am still bothered, or probably trying to figure out in a way intellectually, is the amount of different types of work or ideas bouncing off, and also life keeps providing newer opportunities, like, or day-to-day events come in where there are newer possibilities in one direction or the other. And naturally I'm inclined to looking at, okay, what is that? So I'm sort of chasing after more knowledge. You know what I mean? So I want to, I mean,
Yeah.
from childhood itself, I really wanted to know things, so I keep asking, or I went out asking
Mhm.
my parents about teachers, about friends, and I mean,
Mhm.
with friends and everybody, what is that, what is that, what is that. So I have been always inclined into knowing things, and at the moment I don't do that anymore, but still there would be some things where I'm like, okay, spend about an hour, just completely switched off my non-duality brain per se, and I'm like seeking more and more. So what should I do with that? Yeah.
You sound a lot like me. I don't know if you know
Huh?
my background or anything, if you've been on my
I'm
website.
sorry, I didn't ask you. Yeah, but yeah, I
I'm a
found.
chemical engineer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so,
Now, so to give a context, I basically found out you very coincidental, and of course, when all these seekers are starting to seek, probably the YouTube is also nicely, pushing a lot of videos. But I found your articulation very clear, and one thing led to the other. And yeah, in a couple of minutes, I was already there in your website, and so very nice introduction, and also those photographs were so beautiful. And I am also very inclined into photography, where I find very peaceful, and I enjoy beauty of flowers, and I take a lot of pictures about flowers. And I was like, oh, I could resonate a bit with you and the website.
yeah.
Yeah.
You are on the quest to know yourself. That that is it. You are seeking yourself. You are seeking the ultimate answer in life, and that is
Yes.
yourself. That this one answer, this one piece of knowledge, once you know it, you'll know everything. It will answer every single question you've ever had in life. And that's what you're after.
Yes.
And you've been on a quest your whole life to know yourself. We all have, but some of us have it stronger than others. It's like we know something and we just can't grab it. It's here somewhere. We can taste it, but the
Mm-hmm.
moment we try to grasp it, it disappears. This is
Mm-hmm.
that feeling that we've had about, as we look back over, our past, there's been something there always that has remained permanent. Our life changes, our careers change, education change, body types change, minds change, relationships change. All of this stuff changes, but there's something that never ever changes, and that's ourself. And that's what we're trying to get back to, but we're using the wrong tools to get back to it. We're
Mm-hmm.
utilizing a Western Hemisphere mindset to get back to a Eastern Hemisphere mind or absence of mind. That's that's really it in a nutshell. And we can't beat ourselves up. We have to love ourselves for allowing it to be as it is or how it has been. But now
Yes.
that we have this new piece of knowledge, we know which direction to look. We don't look out anymore. We look within. And everything that we've quote unquote gained from the outward, it will all be there. It doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is like we're born a pure being, right? We're born, this child that's born is pure awareness, and over time we encapsulate it, or we veil the beauty of that childhood wonder and awe with what we call an ego. And this is this thing that we're supposed to become things in life. We're supposed to gain things and have relationships and go on journeys and all of that. And what
Yes.
that does, we identify all of that stuff as us when it's not us. We're this pure beam of light. We're this pure, but we cover it. And what this does, the more you rest within in your being, this shell, this veil just comes off. And this veil, it's it's literally all of the agitation or the negativity that we experience in life. This restlessness, this never quite content, never satisfied. It's even if you are satisfied, it's momentarily, right? It only lasts for a while. And then you're like, gosh, here I go again. I've got to go get something or find something.
Yeah.
That's what gets sloughed off. The mechanism within us that's never satisfied. That's what goes away. That's what we want to go away. And we want to experience this beautiful life around us and all of these attributes that we have gained in life, and to experience those fully. So
Yeah.
it's a sloughing of the mechanism that creates discontentment, or I like to say discontentness, right? The
Mm-hmm.
presence of always being discontent, or yeah, non-content, discontent. It's That's what goes away. And then you experience life directly and fully, with nothing there telling you that you're doing life wrong, that you could be
Yes.
doing it better. It's like, how much more do I have to learn? How much more do I have to acquire? Like, tell me how much more I need so I can just get there and be done. It will never ever be satisfied. The ego will never ever be satisfied. So you have to disassemble that mechanism within you.
Yeah.
And this is where the magic happens, because all your job is to rest in yourself, in self-inquiry. It takes care of everything else. It will disassemble the mechanism for you, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't, right? The ego, because at first the ego is used to disassemble itself,
Mm-hmm.
because there is this ego that wants to turn within, right? But you'll see that once it reaches a certain point, that it it will dissolve itself naturally.
Yeah.
You'll you will have this longing happen. There'll be a longing to want to turn within, this love to want to turn within,
Mm-hmm.
because we love what makes us happy. And self is the source of happiness. So, again, our job at the beginning is to learn how to turn within, which is the hardest part for anybody. And you've already breached that. So that's what I mean. Like, you're here. All you need to do is rest in that source as much as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And in the day, when you feel agitation or you're not satisfied, say, who is this I that's agitated? And it will turn around and it will go back home, and you will experience some freedom there, some peace.
Yes.
So that's why, like Ramana Maharshi said, you can constantly be inquiring, even in your day to day, because you can ask yourself these simple questions that turn the outward movements back onto itself, back into itself.
Yes.
And so the job is to rest in being. That is it. It doesn't matter how many thoughts come up. Nothing else matters except just resting in and as yourself. And it will take care of all of the agitation for you.
Certainly. Thank you. Yeah.
And
It.
you'll
It.
you'll start to experience it. So it's like now, in we don't even consciousness and awareness isn't even at the table in America or the UK or in the Western Hemisphere. It's back here. It doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
But what happens, and then the ego's out here, like I'm all ego. This is all
Yeah.
this world. It's all this world is real. This, you'll experience it. And it's like a gradient, fortunately. It's not an all or nothing. You will start to experience this shift as awareness comes to the front and ego goes to the background. You'll be like, oh boy, this is real, and this is the only thing that's real. Everything else has been false. It's been false knowledge. It's not. Everything else has been what I am not.
Yes. And in that presence, yeah, again, probably saying the same thing. Like we continue doing whatever tasks we are assigned to, or whatever comes up in that moment.
Yeah, you don't deny anything. Your day's going to go on. You're doing amazing things in your career. You don't deny that. That's not being denied, any of that. Your life is, you do not deny your life in any way.
Yeah. So that's where my question again is, or probably intellectually I'm stuck or confused, because my drive is, I'm not taking responsibility for many things for sure. Or there was a period where I am confused whether I should be doing everything that I can and everything that interests me. And then I got into a bit more confusion where I'm like, this just comes naturally to me, and should I be doing this rather, chasing or looking at non-duality
Mm.
alone, so there is this duality itself within the mind. That is like, oh, you are not looking at non-duality, versus, oh, you should look at a lot more of your work. I don't know if I'm
You
my question.
it seems as if you're going to need to try to drop out of the world, so to speak, for a while until you get established in yourself. So you might
Yeah.
need to pull back when you can, not from your work. You still want to do all the work that you're doing. But
Yes.
when you have any free time, yeah, you don't want to engage into more material because the answer is here, right? So all of your free time should be turning within in some fashion, right? And again, you don't want to deny the things that make you joyful either, right? But if you're doing them to find the answer to life, then you know you're going in the wrong direction.
Yes. I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, certain things like, yeah, plus research too. I kind of write a lot. I know how to play music, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it has always been there with me. So, listening, playing, creating things are quite natural in my, day-to-day life. And I'm like, I read a little bit here and there, but I have tried understanding pretty much everything in non-duality, I would say. And I clearly distinguish that, or understand that everybody are saying the same. One way or the other, mysticism is the same,
Yes.
paintings are the same, and I have spent like
Mm-hmm.
hours in art galleries, and all paintings
Mm-hmm.
are trying to suggest the same.
Yes.
And it's just that people have just missed that, and then ended up
Mm-hmm.
looking at a story, and there is a person, and then they started putting a lot of names, and they basically ruined the entire thing. So
Yes.
I kind of go. I mean, I'm overwhelmed with the understanding sometimes, like with the mysticism. It's
Mm-hmm.
right there in front, and you don't understand it. So what should I do?
But
That
are
kind of thing.
you listening to it? So you know it. You just said it, that you know it. But are you putting it into practice? Are
Yeah,
you relinquishing it, and are you going to the source? That's a, you know,
yeah,
that's a
yeah,
big step. And it's relinquishing, maybe you need to start to get more direct with yourself. You said that there's an I who's responsible.
Mm-hmm.
You're not responsible. I am is not responsible. You, I'll tell you some of the things that I had to work through.
Yes, please. Yeah.
I am not a father. I am not a son. I am not a husband. I am not a friend, nor am I responsible. But let me rephrase what I just said. Fathering happens, sonning happens, friending happens, responsibilitying happens. But I am not those things. Those are things that are other than myself. I had to get very direct and I had to trust because there was some fear there. These are
Mm-hmm.
big things to say that I'm not a father. I mean, that's that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But I trusted the sages. I trusted the scriptures. I trusted modern day teachers that I was listening to. And I said, I'm going all in. I'm going to let it all go. I'm going to figure out how to let this all go. And I'm going to let it go. And what happened was is that everything that I just mentioned, it
Yes.
came real close. Everything gets closer because as you relinquish anything, this is the paradox. As you relinquish it all, you become it. Everything that you've relinquished, you it becomes yourself. So my children got closer, my wife got closer, my friends got closer, my career got closer.
So how do you manage that? Or I am again probably intellectually I'm trying to understand it. So how do you manage, or do you still manage, or do you still engage yourself professionally? I
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like to understand.
I'm a owner's rep consultant. So we are consultants on large construction projects,
I see.
right? So I'm still using my career in the construction industry. I'm not a chemical engineer by profession.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the construction building career or industry for a couple decades, and so yeah, you don't lose that. It
Yeah.
actually it becomes more fun because there's nothing there that it's saying that I could be doing
Is it?
better.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah. Oh, okay.
That's usually the big. I mean, responsible. I'm not responsible.
Mm-hmm.
That will stop people in their tracks. What do you mean? You have a family. You've got a career. You have all this stuff, and you're responsible somehow for it. Yes, but it is not who I am. I had to let it go. It's not, it doesn't make me who I am. Nothing can be added to I am to make me I am.
Yes.
I am just by being I am. It's when self rests in and as itself. It doesn't have to it doesn't have to leave itself to gain something and then come back to itself to know itself. It just knows itself by hanging out in itself.
Mm.
And you can't,
Brilliant.
anything you add to it is only a distraction away from it. You actually damage the love. I'm gonna say damage. You tarnish the love of yourself if you add anything to yourself.
You mean identifying myself as those work or those kind of
Your
um,
attributes, your
yeah.
egoic attributes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. But then what is this the presence?
Say that
How,
again.
what is the presence then? I mean,
What is the presence? That is what remains after everything you're not has been relinquished. That's the mystery. That's the I nobody can tell you that in words. You can only be it. You can't know yourself conceptually. You can only be yourself as yourself. See, the ego wants to step in. It wants to know what yourself is so that it has an idea of what it is when it gets there. But do you see the paradox?
yeah.
The ego won't be there when
Yeah.
you get there. And you're already there. You're there right now. You've never not been there. You're just uncovering and revealing everything that veils you from knowing that inherently. I mean, you know it inherently. When you sit with yourself, you know this to be true, but it's still being veiled by an ego.
Yes. And the self inquiry or the question, say, if when I asked, I was thinking the question is what is the presence? And I had another question which is asking within the question, who is asking what is the presence? Because there is certainly no intellect who can define what the intellect itself is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that there is the paradox, and there is this.
Yeah.
Mm,
Who is
yeah.
asking the who am I question?
Yes.
The ego. Yeah. It's ego.
Wow.
And so it's not until you experience being directly will you understand what you're trying to get an answer to right now. Nobody can answer the question that you're asking right now.
Yes.
This is the perennial question, and the answer is you are the answer to that question. Yourself is the answer to that question, and you cannot know yourself intellectually or conceptually. You can only be yourself directly.
Yes.
You can only know yourself by being yourself. And this is understood in self inquiry.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It
It's,
just leads me to,
yeah,
yeah, more
yeah,
quietude, I guess.
go for it.
It's just, I mean, when you left there, it's like mind is not asking any questions anymore, and just silence. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because there isn't a mind. So there, going back to this example, there's the universal mind. There's the consciousness or awareness. It's pure. That's what we could call, say, the universal mind. Then the egoic mind comes in, and it veils the beauty of the universal mind. So when this sloughs off, all that's left is the universal mind of I am. And somehow you don't lose any of the traits that you had before.
Yeah.
Everything is clear. You only know one thing. That's the strange thing, is there's only one thing that you know. You only know yourself, and in that knowing, everything else is known somehow. And so you say, you could say when the mind is absent, well, that's when the egoic mind is absent. The universal mind has been here for eternity. So when the egoic mind is absent, when the agitative, irritative, restless mind is absent, all that you experience is immanent peace. And
Yeah.
everything still happens in that. So you have like this universal peace, and life is happening in that peace. What you would consider negative or positive is happening from a realm of peace and silence and happiness.
Wow. Okay. And if I may go back to what you said earlier, so the more that I relinquish or realize and understand, or not understand, just be whatever that I was supposed to do as this body comes with it in a more intense or more loving, more engaging
Mm-hmm.
way. Or
Yeah.
is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't do it.
Yes.
That's the magical piece, is that you don't do beauty and grace. An ego would not know how to do beauty and grace. Only grace knows how to do beauty and grace. Only yourself knows how to do that. You'll
Mm,
you'll see that um, you'll start to notice things within yourself that are changing. So let me give you an example. Say say somebody cuts you off at a stoplight. Okay,
yeah.
you have this internal mechanism that says when somebody does that, you have these feelings and sensations and urges arise within you. They just are, because that's what happens when somebody does that to me. You'll start to notice that the next time you'll be expecting your body to react in a certain way, but all of
Yeah.
a sudden maybe it only goes up halfway. And you're like, "Oh, that's peaceful that I didn't, get super upset there. I only
Yeah,
got
that's true.
halfway upset. Oh, who chose to do that? Ego didn't choose to do that. I did not make that decision to only get halfway upset. Oh, I know what it is. I've been resting in being. Being is taking care of this for me. And you keep doing that, and then you're like, oh boy, okay, I'm gonna go rest within more and more and more, because if this is it, I'm liking the way that this is going. And you know, eventually you will not get a rise out of somebody cutting you off at the stop sign. It would just won't be there. And it's foreign at first. You're like, whoa, this is weird, because I keep expecting things to happen within me internally, and they're not there anymore. Oh, this is peaceful. I like this. It's those things. You'll experience things in your life that you know that you did not choose to do. It's You are dissolving the mechanism within you that creates agitation by resting in yourself, not by trying to change the mechanism yourself, because you can't. You cannot get at its root. The root is resting in being, and being will disassemble that mechanism from within.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And in meditation or in self-inquiry, think of say I'll start off with my palm open. We're born relaxed and open like this, okay? And over time, we build this thing called ego, and what it is, it's a contraction device. And we hold this thing tight, and we say to, oh boy, who would I be if I let this thing go? I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be anything. Well, yeah, that's what we're shooting for here. But what you're doing in self-inquiry is that you're learning how to release the tension within you. And this is not new energy that's created. Nothing new here is created. This is just a relinquishing of stored energy, of potential energy, right? You're letting that go. And that is the doing. The doing is relinquishing. It's, again, counterintuitive to our mind because our mind wants to do something to gain something. Like it needs an activity,
Yes.
it needs an action. But this is absence of action. This is a retraction of action in which something arises out of it. What arises out of it? Stillness, peace, tranquility. So when you are in self-inquiry and you have internal urges and tendencies that make you want to get up and move,
Mm-hmm.
and they can be all sorts of different ways from all over the spectrum. For instance, boredom. That's one way to say, hey, it's time to get up and move because you're bored. You're like, hold on, I'm on to you. That's the ego stepping in and trying to get me to move away from my being.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You might even have like physical movements that these urges within that make you want to physically move. And if you rest into those, because now you're aware of it, you're like, oh my gosh, there's something in me that it just wants me to get up and move anywhere but here. Oh, there it is. I feel it. Rest into it. Rest into it. Rest into it. And it will subside. And you just pick these off one by one as they come up.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's going back to one of the very first things I was saying is that there's self and then there's everything other than self. So any mind movement, any mind games or images or thoughts or ideas, those are trying to move you away from yourself. Any bodily sensations come up, those are all egoic attempts to move you away from yourself. So anything that comes up that you then become aware of, you're like, there it is. That's the ego trying to detract me from resting and being. And over the course of time, and everybody's different, that these big internal movements, these big internal tendencies, they won't even really be there. I don't have any physical tendencies within me anymore that want me to move away from myself. I do have mental thoughts do come up, so I have that, but I have settled into these, and they're just like bad habits. These tendencies are just like bad habits that we've picked up. And what happens, like if you're going to quit smoking, the first few days is harder, and the more you rest into the quitting, the easier and easier it gets, and that tendency to want to smoke goes away. It's just like anything else. These are called vasanas if you're in the the Advaita Vedanta language here.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
Ramana Maharshi talk. This
Yeah.
is um, this is the core of ego. If you remove all of your vasanas, you will then experience permanent bliss. The vasanas are the seed to all egoic actions. So
Brilliant.
in inquiry, this is this is the investigation. You're investigating these movements within, and you're resting into them. You're letting go.
Yes. Yeah. When you talk about the vasanas and ego, say I tend to have this uh, feeling once I start doing something. I mean, something happens, or you write an email, or cancel out some meetings, or book something, and suddenly, once I do that, I finish that, or probably I just go with the instinct and just do it. And then my mind is like, is it your ego trying to have more entertainment? Is it that which is getting lazy? Is it that which is trying to find new things to work? So that's where I get more confused again. Yeah. So what should I do with that?
So it's understanding that ego only exists by attaching itself to objects. And an object is anything other than yourself. So, I'm looking at the screen, it's grabbing the screen, then I move over to you. So it moves over there, it sees you as an object. I look at my mouse, I'm thinking a thought. These are all
Objects.
objects that an ego it exists by grabbing onto the next thing. That's how it stays alive. So that's what it's doing to stay alive, because it knows that if you continue down this path, it won't be here for much longer. So it's kind of in a fight or flight mode right now, that it's going to do everything it can to continue to grab onto objects, so it will keep you distracted from yourself.
Yeah.
It's just more knowledge. This is just more truthful knowledge. There's you could say that there's two types of conceptual knowledge. There's false knowledge and truthful knowledge.
Yeah.
But truthful knowledge is not the truth. There's only one truth, and that is you. You yourself alone are the only truth. So even truthful knowledge, like understanding how an ego works so that you can use that against the ego, in the end, that knowledge will be discarded as false knowledge. This is the path of jnana. Even in the end, jnana is abandoned as false knowledge, even though it was the truthful knowledge that brought you to
Mm-hmm.
the point where all of a sudden it's false knowledge, and all that remains is you, the truth.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I somehow resonate very, very well with you. Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Oh,
And to hear you as well. Yeah.
curiosity will kill the ego. The old saying, curiosity killed the cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you heard of that? Yeah. So curiosity, in non-duality, curiosity will kill the ego.
Oh, beautifully put. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, curiosity is mm, towards self. Yes. Yeah. I'm not trying to define the self or trying to seek something outside with my curiosity, but rather I'm curious about who is the person or who is experiencing all this. That's the curiosity, right? Yeah.
Nobody is experiencing it. It's
Yeah.
experiencing itself. as itself. It only knows itself as itself. There's only one substance here. There's only one reality, and you yourself are that one reality. You, you could say a one reality is a one substance. There's only one substance that makes up totality, and you are that substance.
So
Ask yourself this: have you list some times where you've never been aware?
no, no, I don't think there has not been a time when I'm not aware. No.
Correct. Right? You're aware in the waking state. You're aware in the dreaming state because you're aware of your dreams. You're aware in the sleeping state, in deep sleep.
Yes.
You know, people are like, really? I'm aware. You say, well, have you ever woken up to an alarm clock? And they say, yes. Well, what heard that? You weren't
Mm-hmm.
there. It was awareness that heard it. The other one, too, is that what was aware that there was a gap between dreaming and waking.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if there wasn't a gap. Even if it's just for a moment, we know there's a gap because it would just flicker back between dreaming and wake, and we would be incredibly confused.
Yes.
Okay, so you are that is actually your pure being is your sleep. You're in your true nature. So let's take it another step. Those that have had um, near death experiences, right? They've died. They've died. They have risen out of their body. They've been transported into heaven and just seen these beautiful realms. What is the one thread that everybody that's had an NDE has in common? They're all aware of their experience.
Yes.
How about those who have taken large doses of hallucinogenics like LSD or
Mm-hmm.
psilocybin? Right, they're catapulted into the cosmos and they exploded into nothing and they became the light. They saw God. They became God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is the common thread?
See, yeah, they are aware about what they experience. Yeah.
That's right. You cannot not be aware if you tried. If your
Okay.
life depended on it, you
Yeah.
could not be aware. You're permanently aware, is another way to say
Yes.
it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, the one substance of totality is awareness. Your
Yeah.
awareness is the one reality, it is yourself.
Yeah. So everything that arises or happens within our day-to-day life is all an imagination within
It we don't
this
deny
mind.
it. We don't deny its appearance, but it
Yes.
doesn't have a standalone reality. Its underlying reality is awareness.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is where science comes in. This is where quantum physics comes in and neuroscience is that
Mm-hmm.
the brightest minds in the world have never found matter. Every time they look, they end up in this formless fabric of potential that can't be measured, it can't be known. And one thing that frustrates me, if I get frustrated at all, is that we don't use our own intelligence. The brightest minds in the world have said our reality isn't what we think it is. They're not
Mm-hmm.
denying that we don't see what we see. We do see what we see. It's just
Yeah.
not what we think it is.
Yeah.
And then when you tie in some of the early quantum physicists like Erwin Schrödinger, who is known as like the father of quantum physics,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
said,
I mean, I have read What is Life
"Oh,
very many times. Yeah, I
okay,
was actually drawn by him as well. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
the answer lies in the Upanishads." Well, why don't we go to the Upanishads then?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're lucky enough, you do end up in the Upanishads, right? You end up in this message that we're talking about right here. This is
Yes.
what this is the answer to quantum physics is yourself.
Yeah.
It's
And yeah, I mean, another question would be about sharing, as you are also sharing in YouTube, or in the website. I do have this strong urge to share with my friends or with my family, and sometimes it's really difficult because I don't think they're resonating, and I don't think they're understanding, and I'm like, what should I do? How do you manage that things, or do you have any of those? I wonder.
so I learned the hard way by mentioning this stuff to my family primarily.
Yeah, I
Um,
would assume. Yeah, you might have talked to families.
and you look like an idiot. I look like an idiot for probably several years because I would
Hmm.
say dumb things like we don't exist, we're not who we are, which at its source is true, but I had no idea what it meant. I didn't understand the mechanics of it like I do now, to where
Hmm.
I can verbally describe it, plus I'm experiencing it. That's the clinch once you experience it. So my advice is that you know yourself and it will take care of everything else.
Yeah.
You your friends and family will be drawn so much closer to you. You will attract them faster, if you want to look at it that way,
Hmm.
into this message because you will become empty. You're emptying yourself of all of these attributes that you once were, and you become somewhat like it's like a black hole. You a black hole, there's nothing there. And we got to be careful because you're not a void. You're not the absence of everything. There is still this beautiful presence of being that
Yeah.
remains. But to an ego, that's this void that you're drawn into. And people they'll they'll be drawn to you because they want what you have. And what you have is peace.
Yes.
And you're radiating this peace by being yourself. The ego's gone. The ego can't radiate peace. It doesn't have any idea what that is.
Hmm.
So, by just being yourself, you will draw those into you that are ready to hear this. Not everybody's ready. That's why you
Yeah.
can't go
Understand.
out and spread it to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I realized that pretty soon as well, and I got frustrated with very many of my friends, and they feel like I'm a stupid. Sometimes they feel like, yeah, this guy is, talking absurd stuff. Yeah.
That's why the whole message is know yourself and be. Know yourself,
Know
and then you
yourself.
will automatically and inadvertently share yourself with the world. You won't be doing it. It will be doing it itself. And the ego doesn't like to hear things like that. It wants to be the doer of good news.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's what we do, right? Like once you have done something, and like you go say that, okay, I did that, I did this, I
Mm-hmm.
want that, I got this result. Yeah, all this
Mm-hmm.
I will be there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's paradoxical. It's counterintuitive. It's 180 degrees. You know, it's the more you become empty, the more the greater the gift you have to share. And people want what you have, and the thing is you don't have anything anymore.
Mhm.
It's in awe. You're just in awe the whole time. Like, how can it be like this? How can this be reality?
Mhm. Mhm.
But it is, and then you just stop asking that question and just be in awe.
And just be. Yeah.
Just be. Yeah, it has an awe quality, right? It's Sat Chit Ananda. That Ananda piece is I guess you could say that's what we're all after out of this, right? That happiness that arises by knowing yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And prior to knowing this itself, if I feel like, all that arises, or all that coordinates the entire life forms and how it works and all that, is that the mind, I mean the ego, telling me that this is fascinating, or this is beautiful, or this um, unbelievably complex, yet it takes care of itself in some unknown way, and I'm in awe that that is working like that. So is, how do you, or how do I um, reconcile with that?
I I'm not quite sure what you asked, but let me I think I might have got it. So, within the realm of being, complexity is happening at work.
Yes.
Is that what you were getting at? Like, how does all of these life things happen?
Yeah.
The complexity, like, this is a hard problem. Yes, hard problems still arise. It's just happening in a realm of contentment,
Yeah.
and it, 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 it can't mar you. It can't
Mhm.
mar self. Like, eventually anything that's happening in the world, no matter how negative it is, it will not scratch your being. It won't scratch your happiness. It can't be dinged or marred or or scraped or anything like that.
Mhm.
You still see horrific things going on, and you say, oh, that is bad, and there are, as we know, in this world, there's really
Mhm.
negative things going on, but it doesn't hurt the love of yourself. And so for and therefore you it allows you to be the greatest impact onto that, right? What Anybody who just would enter into like a negative situation from a place of love, you can't be more helpful than that. That's giving 100%.
Yeah. Beautifully put. Yeah. Wow. Fascinating. Yes.
It is fascinating. I never ever dreamt that it would be like this.
Mhm.
I, right? Because ego can't get this. I could never. An ego can't drum this up. It can't create this. It can't it can't write this non-duality story without somebody pointing it to it. It can't imagine this. It's the one thing that it can't imagine, that itself is the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And then you smile and you laugh and you shake your head. and you just rest in awe and in being.
Wow, beautiful. Yeah, and thank you so much for taking your time. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Mm.
I am, you know, open to meet again and see how it's going and help you along and point and do anything I can to have you experience
Thank
yourself.
you. Thank you very much. Yes,
That's
absolutely. I mean, you're a great pointer, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very clear. I mean, yeah, very, I don't know. I don't know how to explain. Yeah.
there's nothing more than my longing for you to know yourself, because myself is yourself. We share
Yes.
the same selves. All 8 billion of us share the same self. So once you know yourself, you know everybody else's self. There's only one substance, there's only one being, there's only one awareness, and that's you.
And that's, yeah, that would be the best longing as well. Or does it feel like longing for you? Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody should be aware about this and know this. Yeah.
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 Meister Eckhart has an awesome quote that I just love. It's the self is an ego that's lost interest in its own self interest. What does this world need more of than anything right now? The self interest to drop away.
Yes.
That's what this world needs. It needs less ego. It needs less people wanting to get ahead for themselves.
Yeah. More experiences, more food, more clothes. I need this and that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I often feel that, yeah, I mean, definitely in Oxford because it's a place where people keep coming in and, it's so crowded almost all days. And I
Mm-hmm.
always feel like, what are they trying to see or
Yeah.
explore? I don't know. But it's like I'm not, uh, I'm pretty relaxed with whatever is happening around, but it's just that wonder of what drives this whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's driven it to this point is it is ego, right?
Yeah.
Ego is, it served a pretty solid purpose there for a while in our evolution, but now it's just completely out of control. Like it reached a tipping point, like you know, um, a mathematical, what is it, the
Mhm.
top, an inflection point, that it's spiraling out of control. But that's the paradox of all of this. That's nothing but self doing this somehow.
Yes.
It's here to experience itself. That's what that's what it's doing, and
Hmm.
you can't you can't know why. It won't let you know why. It'll only let you know who.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
You're welcome. Please reach out again in the future.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I don't know what time is it in. I don't know where you are talking as well.
Oh, I'm in
Sorry,
I'm in Boise, Idaho.
Idaho. Okay, nice.
Yeah, United States.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, my sister lives in Jersey, New Jersey. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I have been to Portland and I stayed there for about a year. Yeah,
All right. Yeah.
been in and out, but yeah, not been to Idaho. What is famous in Idaho?
What is
Just
famous?
curious.
We
Yeah.
are famous for our potatoes.
Ah, yeah, of course. Yeah. Idaho potatoes. Yeah, yeah.
And the funny thing is that there are other states that grow more potatoes than Idaho does. So
I see.
uh, maybe sometime many decades ago we used to grow more, but
Mm,
yeah, it's
yeah.
kind of a it's kind of a joke here. Just
Mm-hmm.
just let the world think that Idaho grows potatoes.
Right. Yeah. 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 And thank you very much for your time, and hope you have a great day.
Yes, you
And
too.
I certainly would write to you more. Yeah.
Please,
Once.
please reach out, and you can email me too.
Okay.
That'd probably
Brilliant.
be a better way, and we could maybe set up a unique time if we need to.
Yeah.
Or you could just email me questions or however you want to do it.
Great.
All right?
Great. Yeah. Thank you very
All
much.
right.
Yeah.
Take care.
Take care. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye bye.